Good evening, folks. What's going on? Welcome back to another episode of Off the Schneid. We're going to be drafting today. Obviously, the Puppy 2 was launched this morning, yesterday, something like that. I think it was this morning. Haven't done any yet. I don't know if I'll max it, but I will have my most entries in this puppy. I only got 7 in the Puppy 1. The puppy, the original, only got 7 in there. So definitely do. And this didn't come kind of a moment too soon. I'm tired of, I don't want to say wasting, but I'm tired of using my BBM drafts this early. So I'm happy that the puppies launched finally so I can rip the shit out of these guys, these $5 tournaments, and, save some of my BBM entries for when training camp opens. It's getting a little too, choppy out there right now. A lot of takes. It's just take season right now. It's find a story, find a take, say what you got to say, do what you got to do, whatever. There's a lot of shit flying around there right now that's just a whole bunch of nonsense. None of it means anything. It's lying season, etc., all of the above. So take what you will from it. There's some good takes out there. Just trust who you always go to. Typically, hopefully you come here for takes. Hopefully I provide some good takes. Coach Speak Index, I like a lot of that. But again, it only goes so far, especially right now. It's just lying season. Similar to draft season when it's just lying season and everyone's just making shit up, saying whatever, headlines, just clickbait, whatever. So that's kind of where we're at until training camp opens at the end of July. But we'll get there. So the Puppy 2, like I said, just launched, $5 entry, and it's structured almost exactly the same as Best Ball Mania, which I like, which might lead me towards wanting to max it or at least get close. Like I said, I'll probably draft more of these Puppy 2s than any other puppy that I end up doing. So it's already, 8% filled. This will fill probably in about a week-ish. We'll see. Depends on, it is 150 entries, so it should be okay. To be honest, I'm shocked that Dalmatian's still going. I wish I waited and maybe streamed another Dalmatian or something, but these streets are getting interesting, if I'm being honest with you. The values are drying up. There's not a lot of, the movement has changed a ton. Guys are only moving up maybe 2-3 spots in ADP. There's not huge shifts until we see an injury or some camp buzz. There's a few spots, Chargers running back, New York Giants running back 2, things like that that'll move some ADPs. But up until then, like training camp happens and we see who's getting reps and where they're getting reps, and maybe injuries happen, we're not going to see a crazy amount of ADP shifting and value hunting, stuff like that. So it's kind of drying up right now. I feel like the rooms are pretty just ABC, you know what I mean? They're just kind of structured. A lot of ADP drafters, which is, relatively fine in this point in the off season or in the draft season. But either way, let's take a look at this puppy. So Puppy 2, 2 of 12, 1 of 10, 1 of 10, 280 seat final. And again, just like the BBM final and structure, you win your max entry buy-in back if you make the finals. So the top 280 obviously get $750 to max enter this tournament. It's $750. So I like that. I like that structure. Again, when I'm drafting these Puppy 2s, it's going to be a lot like my BBM draft style or structure and roster construction, where week 17 is pretty much all that matters for me. That's all I really care about. I don't care if I get one team into the finals. If I get one team in the finals, I want it to go as high and as far as possible. So I'm stacking week 17. And like I said, I'll probably do the same thing in these Puppy 2s. Maybe a little less so. Like I was saying with the ADPs drying up or just, leveling out or settling in, whatever you want to call it. It's a lot more difficult now to bring, to have a triple stack with your QB and a double bring back, something like that. You know what I mean? It's a little more difficult to set those things up. So it's just the rooms are a little bit, I don't want to say tougher, but I want to say just more structured, and more in line with ADP, except for some falling pocket quarterbacks, because, Pete Overzet and those guys basically talked about push pocket quarterbacks. The market adjusts. Hey, I wish I had that kind of, pull with the industry, or could shift things that much. But it's interesting. So you see Tua, you see Joe Burrow, sometimes guys like Jared Goff fall, and even Dak Prescott, you see them fall in drafts all the time. Those pocket passers, Trevor Lawrence as well, even though he can get you some yards on the ground and some points on the ground. But either way, we're going to rip some of these puppies. So let's jump into one right now. If you guys are in the chat, hit that like button if you don't mind. I really appreciate it. It looks like I was the last one into this puppy. So hopefully if you're in the chat, you're in it with me. Wow, interesting room. Dave Klug, definitely know him. FF Links, definitely know him. Crazy Marley, I might know who that is. Not entirely sure. But definitely a couple badges. Yeah, people are going to be hitting these streets pretty hard, I feel like, myself included. So hopefully I don't have to do too many slows. I really am not a big fan of the slow drafts. I still have 5 poodles going on right now that are fine, and you can get some good value. To be honest, I think the best time to join slow drafts is probably around, July 20th or July 15th, in and around that 15th to 20th time, where you can get some rounds in before training camp opens. Maybe an injury happens and you're in a slow draft, right? And you can smash some closing line value where you pull up a guy whose ADP hasn't adjusted yet, right? So and realistically, ADPs will adjust on injury, 3 days. 2-3 days, 4 days max, sort of thing. That ADP will adjust very, very quickly. So if you can time it where you're in a slow draft and you can snap some ADP value or some closing line value kind of in real time, then that's kind of the dream. So again, I don't love slow drafts, but there can be some value in there. So we'll see. But drew the 11 pick. Watch now. I've been trying to get it in Best Ball Mania forever, but watch, I'll get Puka and Marvin Harrison in this one, because I've been trying to get that stack in Best Ball Mania for a while. That's pretty much the only reason I picked Puka, is to try to get that Marvin Harrison stack for week 17. But it's going to be pretty high owned. I get it. Actually, I shouldn't even say that. It's actually relatively tough to get, if I'm being honest with you. Maybe drop in the chat if you have that stack and how many times you have it and what it looks like. I've seen a few guys get it and then kind of fumble the bag with it. It's like, man, I wish I could have gotten that. I would have taken advantage of it, but it is what it is. Bijan goes at 9. That's a massive value there. I'm just going to take AJ Brown. I don't understand why I wouldn't. It would have been nice to be the 9 pick and get some Bijan action there. Who got pulled up? Oh, Breece Hall. Breece Hall got pulled up a little bit, and obviously Puka Nacua, but we're going AJ Brown. That's an easy click. Easy click for me. And then, maybe, and these are some of the rooms where you can do some different stuff. So I could bring up I don't know who I would want to bring up. Even Devontae Smith, maybe, if I really wanted to get creative. I could do something like that, but I won't in this instance. Let's bring in. Fuck it. Let's bring in Devontae Smith. Let's get creative here. Let's get creative. I don't have a lot of Jalen Hurts exposure in Best Ball Mania. I will change that, and I kind of have to try. The 2 teams that I find are the most kind of difficult to get the optimal stack, or what should be the optimal stack, what we would perceive as the optimal stack: Chiefs and Eagles. Obviously, The Chiefs are tough to line up unless you reach on one of or both Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, and then you get one of those, Hollywood or Worthy, and then or maybe Rashee Rice. So it's just difficult, and you have to reach for one of or two of those players at least. And then the Eagles, same sort of a thing. I just reached up for Devontae Smith. Is that a bad move by me? Probably, but it's a $5 puppy, so I'm going to get creative sometimes, try some different things, build out that stack. Obviously, I'm going to have to bring in some Dallas Cowboys, which I will, but it kind of boxes out the CeeDee Lamb drafter as well. So we'll see. We'll see how that works out. Putt Daddy, what's up, man? OG of the channel, appreciate you. What up, Cody? 28 BBM so far, 4 slows going right now. Wait until mid-July before I start pushing the BBM. Yeah, man, I'm jealous. I'm like 56, 57 BBMs right now. And like I was saying in the pre-show there, it wasn't a moment too soon for this puppy 2 to get dropped because I'm drafting way too much. And I really do not want to be, realistically, I just want the BBM to catch up to my, draft level, which is about 33%, 35% of my BBM entries. So I want that tournament to get to 33, 35% filled, right? That's where I want to be. So I'm really happy this puppy 2 got dropped, so I can do nothing but puppy 2 drafts for the next, I don't know, however long it's open, a week, hopefully I have a little bit of time. I don't want to do, like I said, too many slows. I just want to smash these fast drafts like crazy. Maybe on the weekend, I'll just put my earphones in, my earbuds in, and just smash draft after draft, double, triple table, that sort of a thing. Because I really got to slow down my exposure on these BBM drafts, especially because, like I said again in the pre-show, I feel like it's kind of drying up and just getting structured, and we need some news to shake things up a little bit. Smash 10 puppies, got one going on at the moment. Nice. Yeah, I'm gonna be drafting these probably all night, so I'll do a couple while we're streaming. We'll rip a few drafts while Derrick Henry going a little bit early, so we'll rip a few drafts and chat some shit in the chat there. So if you got questions, anything to say at all, fire it in there. Let's have a little conversation. And these puppy 2s are the time to get a little creative, in my opinion. These puppies, period. These $5 drafts, these $5 entries, Chihuahuas, whatever, even poodles for that matter. Try some different stuff. See what you can get for combinations. Because it's only $5. It's not the end of the world. Maybe that's a few bucks for you. That's all fine and good. The Chihuahuas may be a little more comfortable, whatever. But you never know what's going to end up being kind of the nuts at the end of the day. So I'm going to try a few different things. Definitely going to bring in Jalen Hurts in this build. George Pickens would be nice just for that week, 15 correlation a little bit there. Plus, another thing I've been trying to get is the Pittsburgh KC stack on the Pittsburgh side, where you bring in an elite quarterback like I would think Jalen Hurts is. I think most people would agree with me on that. And then I get both Pittsburgh quarterbacks. You get Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. And then I don't really care who's playing. I'm going to be Jalen Hurts is going to be my lineup most weeks, right? So whoever's playing for the Steelers, cool. They're going to be maybe in my lineup in a bye week, obviously replacement for week 5 for the the Eagles bye. And then you never know what happens, especially with some high upside like Justin Fields, right? So I don't think I have to take Jalen Hurts right here, as in I definitely do not. So do I go with a guy like Zay Flowers, Tank Dell? I could, but let's get creative. Yeah, this is going to be a different kind of draft, which means I could probably go Jalen Hurts first. Whatever, I got Pickens. I doubt this guy picks Jalen Hurts. I should be fine. But yeah, we're gonna get creative in this draft. The first puppy I've done. This is puppy number 1 for me. Like I said, I'll be ripping this all night tonight. I'll get as many in as I can. And again, like throughout the week, you'll probably see me in the streets. That's for sure, because I want to get my most entries of the puppy in this tournament. Whether I max it or not, we'll see. But I'm going to try my darndest. So Jalen Hurts, I like the way this is building out. 3 wide receivers, elite QB. Obviously, I'm going to have to bring it back with probably Jake Ferguson. And then I will probably bring in either Cooks or Brandon Cooks or Jalen Tolbert, and then double stack the bring back on the Dallas side is probably what I'm going to do with this. So with my next pick, I'm definitely going to be looking for a 50-52. That's the perfect range for a Kansas City Chief. I would like to bring in Jake Ferguson. I already know what I'm doing with this draft. It's getting a little silly. I'm ruining it. Why even stay, right? I'm kidding, but hit that like button while you're here. And then I'm going to get Pat Freiermuth, and then bring in both Pittsburgh Steelers quarterbacks and see what else transpires from there. I think it's a different build. It's an interesting build. A lot of correlation, obviously. Washington's going to be on the menu as well. So that means probably Jahan Dotson, maybe Brian Robinson, who I like more than Eckler. But in this case, Eckler might make more sense because he's the pass catching back. So if my Eagles are going off and it's a high scoring game, then you got to think Eckler's going to get some run. He's going to have to be in there because they're going to be playing comeback, blah, blah, blah. But we'll see. I'd rather have Dotson. So, yeah. We'll see how this works out, but that's my loose plan as it sits right now. And, we'll see how this works out, which also means that I'm drafting 3 quarterbacks. So it's going to be a 3. I don't know. We'll see what happens in the running back room and where I get my first running back. Cause if I'm going wide receiver here for sure, which I am, one of the Chiefs, then, and by one of the Chiefs, it's almost certainly Xavier Worthy because Hollywood Browns moved up a fair amount. So Xavier Worthy, and then, I don't know, could go James Cook here if he's there. Otherwise, I'm going to have to scroll down a little bit for one of these wide receivers. So it's probably going to be wide receiver. You can see by my exposure as the probably the highest exposed volume drafter that was out there last year of Rachaad White. I don't have a single share of Rachaad White this year. He was just an absolute screaming value for me last year. And this year, I feel the complete opposite about Rachaad White. And I am drafting actually a fair amount of Bucky Irving. So there you go. Joe Mixon. I think there is a time and a place to draft Joe Mixon. I don't think it's in any and every build, but I do think I need to up my exposure there. It's just too hard to click. Look at all these running backs in this range. Look at all of them. My exposures, Alvin Kamara is a little bit higher than the rest, mostly because he just correlates a lot with some of my builds. But all of these running backs, up until we get to Najee here, sub 5% max. Kenny Walker 5%, 3% Joe Mixon, 3% Josh Jacobs. I'm just not drafting running backs in this range. I don't know about you guys, but it's hard to click running back there when the wide receivers are still so juicy. I'm not completely tied to the 0 RB, mantra. I wouldn't call myself a 0 RB bro. I'm just I'm building a lot of hero type RB builds. Christian McCaffrey, Bijan Robinson, Breece Hall, even Jonathan Taylor, Gibbs, things like that. And then I don't draft a running back until, round 8, 9, 10. So it's not even because I'm like, oh, I'm 0 RB. I'm not drafting a running back. That's not it. It's just, it's how it works out. It's just how the draft board looks. And I just find it really hard to click some of those names. James Cook, I do like a lot, and I think there's still some value there for him. But a guy like Rachaad White, it's just not going to happen. So we'll see. Looks like Worthy goes. I'll have to, loop it back around with Rashee Rice or just completely bail on that strategy, which I might do that as well. So let's talk about James Cook. If I'm bailing on that strategy, I was talking about Joe Mixon. Might just have to bring him in here. I mean, this does make sense. I need to up that exposure. Yeah, let's do that. Bring in Joe Mixon, then I'm definitely going to tap wide receiver on the other end of this wraparound. Rome Odunze, I like too much to not the biggest Chris Godwin guy this year. We'll talk about him in a second. After I make this pick, Jordan Addison, I'd like to bump up the exposure a bit. Ladd McConkey, if I don't get an elite quarterback, one of Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, essentially those three quarterbacks. If I don't get one of those guys, and maybe I went heavy RB or something like running back, a bully running back, whatever you want to call it. I don't know all these buzzwords, if I'm being honest with you, but if you're doing that type of a build, then I'll bring in Ladd McConkey, thinking that I'm going to get Justin Herbert later in the draft. That's kind of how and why I have that exposure to Ladd McConkey. I mean, it's nothing crazy. But I'm going to go Rome Odunze here again. And why don't I like Chris Godwin? Let's talk about it. Yeah, let's go Rome Odunze. So I don't like Chris Godwin a ton for a couple reasons. Last year and the year before, it really looked like he kind of lost a step a little bit. There's 0 touchdown upside, 5 touchdowns over the last 2 seasons. 100 plus targets, I get it. 100 catches 2 years ago, basically the same amount of yards. He is what he is, and this is exactly what he is. 150 to 170 points. That's not what I'm looking for in this range. I think that Rome Odunze could have a better year than that. I think Jordan Addison, who did have quite a bit better year than that last year as a rookie, I think he can surpass that mark. DeAndre Hopkins, you better bet your ass I think he can have a better season than that. Obviously, I have decent exposure. Keon Coleman falls in the same bucket for me as Chris Godwin. I think Brian Thomas Jr. can have a better season than a Chris Godwin. There's just no touchdown upside. There's no excitement there with Chris Godwin's game. Everyone's going to tell you he's moving into the slot. I get it. The last time he was in the slot, do you know who was throwing him the football? Was it Baker Mayfield? No. It was Tom fucking Brady, the best quarterback to ever play the game. Also, wide slot receivers ate a lot. Might know a name, Wes Welker, Danny Amendola, right? All these slot receivers that had a good time playing with Tom Brady. Obviously, Chris Godwin did as well, but I just don't particularly see it the way some people do. I get there's and another thing on top of that, I think they drafted his direct replacement in Jalen. What's his name again? Jalen McMillan. There you go. Jalen McMillan played almost exclusively in the slot in Washington for a very good offense, for a pro caliber offensive coordinator, team, quarterback, other wide receivers, everything like that. 3rd round draft capital. I think that's the direct replacement for Chris Godwin. And I think Chris Godwin lost a bit of a step, man. He just, they were very, very purposefully trying to get him on the field and get him the ball. And he still didn't really. He had, again, 131 targets, 83 catches. If that's a similar season to here, and maybe had some more touchdown upside, I might be singing a different tune, but I'm just not jumping on the Chris Godwin bandwagon. I'm really not. To be honest, I need to get more Mike Evans. That's for damn sure. I really need more Mike Evans. I won't say anything different about that. Cade Otton I wouldn't mind getting more exposure there, but there's a time and a place, and I have a ton of just elite tight ends. It's a lot of people's strategy. I get it. I'm on the same page with a lot of people in that regard. I'm drafting, a heavy amount of, I guess you could call it hero tight end or elite tight end, whatever you want to call it. I don't care, but that's something I'm doing. So I don't have a lot of Cade Otton. But I just think with Dave Canales gone, this offense is going to take a little bit of a step back. I do like Liam Cohen, don't get me wrong. And there is familiarity with Baker Mayfield, but I'm not in on Chris Godwin this year. I am drafting him a little bit here and there if it makes sense, but it's really not something that I'm trying to like force by any means. And it's tough to click his name for me, if I'm being honest. It's not the easiest click. Where do I want to go? Probably wide receiver. Definitely going to take Jake Ferguson, so I might just bring him in right now. This guy already has tight end. Doesn't really correlate with Jake Ferguson, but it doesn't look like that's something he's trying to do or worried about. Except for Atlanta, he's definitely got some Atlanta stack action going on there. I do like Jameson Williams more than your average Bear, but mostly because he correlates, which is fine. He plays against my Chicago, Rome Odunze, which I could bring in Caleb Williams and then Cole Kmet if Caleb Williams falls to me at 107, which is actually where his ADP, I think, is lining up right now. Yeah, he's fallen a little bit lately. So that might work out. I just don't think this guy's going to rip 2 tight ends this early with Kyle Pitts. Maybe he does, but I'm going to take a risk that he doesn't. Just because wide receiver completely dries up right here. Jameson Williams is essentially the wide receiver cliff. There's a lot of people that are kind of out on Jameson Williams. I'm actually in on him. I think this is a good ADP right here. I think if he was higher, I'd be out on him. Like if he was Christian Watson last year, I would be out on him, but he's not. And it's so far so good until training camp opens, and we'll see, what that looks like. And in the preseason, maybe he just crushes it. And then closing line value is, I don't know, early 70s, something like that. Like maybe he should move up ahead of Keon Coleman, in my opinion. I think Keon Coleman is going to plummet. I don't know why people are drafting him so high. I get it that, you like the upside with Josh Allen. He's different than the other wide receivers. I get all that, but I just don't care. I really just don't care that that's what people perceive him as being. He's just not that good, in my opinion. I didn't like his tape whatsoever, personally. To each their own. I have clicked him, obviously, and I will click him, but there's a time and a place. And until his ADP falls to, in the 80s at least, near where Jameson Williams is going, I won't be clicking him a ton. And then, Christian Watson, we'll see where Rashee Rice lands with his suspension, if he gets suspended. To be honest, he could be an absolute smash because he may not get suspended this year. Like that might not happen at all for 2024. I wouldn't mind upping that exposure a little bit. I certainly would have drafted him in this draft. It would have been my last ditch effort to get that Pittsburgh stack. So we'll see what I end up with in the tight end room. Maybe I go 3 tight ends instead of 3 quarterbacks as it looks right now. I could always bring in, Roman Wilson, but I'm probably going to bring in Bears stack if Caleb Williams is still there at my next pick at the 8-9 turn, whatever it is, 9-10 turn at 107. If Caleb Williams is still there, then I'm going to pull the trigger on him and then bring in Cole Kmet and see what happens. But that's what I'm gonna end up with, which makes me sad about reaching on George Pickens now. Like now, I wish I didn't do that. But who would I have taken? I guess Tank Dell. I look behind me, massive Bengals fan right here. I'm not drafting T. Higgins very much. Let's look at it. My exposure, wow, 0% and 1%. So I have touched them like once in a blue moon, but none in this tournament, obviously. But I think I did once in BBM. I'm just not drafting T. Higgins. Why am I not drafting T. Higgins? He clearly doesn't want to be there. They drafted his replacement in Jermaine Burton. I'm drafting a lot of Jermaine Burton. Joe Burrow likes T. Higgins. Yes, he does. But he really is not very good at catching the football a lot of times. Kind of has stone hands a little bit. if you watch the games, don't just look at the stat line. He does have some breakout performances. Yes, he has some big games where he catches everything. He also has a ton of games where his literally is lugging around a couple cinder blocks and trying to catch a pigskin football with cinder blocks. You ever try that? It's probably not easy, I'd imagine. It's just it doesn't look good. It just doesn't look good. So I'm not drafting a lot of T. Higgins. It's just until I just need to I need his ADP to drop. Where is he going? Where is he going in these drafts? 30 something? Yeah, 30. There you go, 37, right? To me, that's crazy. To me, that's absolutely crazy. I think Amari Cooper should probably fall a little bit too, but that's just my bias for hating Amari Cooper for God knows why. I really don't know why I don't like Amari Cooper, but I just never have. But Christian Kirk, I would be taking George Pickens, Tank Dell, Christian Kirk, Zay Flowers, Terry McLaurin, all over T. Higgins every single day of the week, twice on Sundays. Look at his production here. He's shown us what his ceiling is. Everyone's chasing this alleged ceiling because he plays on the Bengals with Joe Burrow. I get it. Look behind me. Massive fan. I get it. I understand it. Look at Jamar Chase's numbers. There's still some meat on the bone with him too. But this is his ceiling. He's shown us what his ceiling is. 185 points. Nothing to, shake a stick at or anything. It's pretty good production. But if he's not motivated, if he, can't catch the football, that's what we're looking at from T. Higgins. Or if Jermaine Burton is just that good, which is very possible. So, yeah. Jake Ham, what's up, man? Thanks for popping in. I just drafted T at 46. That's a click every time for me. Yeah, me too. If it's at 46, that far past ADP, then I click them. Then I would be clicking them, right? Right around here, a full, half round, almost more than a half round passes ADP. Sure. Especially because that means you probably got him with Jamar Chase, most likely. And again, that's not something I completely condone either. Yeah, you want some exposure to Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Burrow stack. You want some exposure to that for sure, but you really don't want to be overexposed to that stack because it's going to be very, very, very common. And I don't see that as being the game that you need like it was with the Dallas Cowboys and the Detroit Lions last year. That was a game that you absolutely had to have if you wanted to make money in the best ball finals. Whatever tournament you're in, doesn't matter. You had to have that stack. I do not think that the Cincinnati Bengals and the Denver Broncos is the game stack that you absolutely need to, win exorbitant amounts of money in Best Ball Mania or any other tournament for that matter. Let me make this pick. I'm not really paying attention. I do want Washington, but I'd rather have Dotson. I'd like to go with a running back. I'm just going to bring in Trey Benson. I like him. Makes sense for what I'm doing. Yep. Let's go Trey Benson. Okay. So yeah, that back to the Joe Burrow stuff and the Bengals stuff, put a bow on it. I don't want to be overexposed to that Cincinnati Bengals stack. I'd rather get creative in ways with that. What I like to do is since Joe Burrow falls a lot, because again, the Swolecast guys, Pete Overzet, all the movers and shakers in the best ball space, in the best ball industry, said that we need to push pocket passers. I understand the sentiment behind it. I understand the reasoning behind it, and I do it as well, and I get it. But you can only push it so far. So I'll take a falling Joe Burrow a lot, 20 picks past ADP, and then bring in a guy like Chase Brown and Mike Gesicki and Jermaine Burton. I'll bring in all those other pass catching options on the team and have more unique stacks, right? That's something I like to do as well. Depends on the team, depends on who you're after, depends on the game stack. Obviously, the Bengals are a high scoring offense. So it's a team that you can do that with. And there's still value there in my head. There's still value in that, team and in that stack, because I don't know, look at, let's again, what we were talking about earlier. Let's look at the Chiefs, right? In order to get that optimal stack, to try to get Kelsey and or Hollywood Brown and or Xavier Worthy and or Rashee Rice, in order to get that, you got to reach a ton. With the Bengals stack, you're getting crazy falling value in Joe Burrow a lot of times. You'll probably have to pick Chase Brown at ADP, maybe reach, half a round, 6 picks or something on Jermaine Burton, not a big deal. And then get Mike Gesicki at ADP, however you work it out or however many you stack up. But either way, to me, that's value. Call me crazy, but to me, that's capturing some falling value in a high scoring, very productive offense. So we'll see how that shakes out in the end. But that's something I like to do with a team like the Bengals in this conversation that we're having. So, I like the way this team's building out, though. It's going to probably end up being 2-6-8-2, my exceptionally most common, roster construction. Obviously, no overlapping buys. 2 mobile quarterbacks as well, which is nice. Running backs are going to get a little bit thin, but that's okay. I have a pretty strong wide receiver room, in my opinion. I've got correlation. I'd like to stack up a little more correlation with certain teams. Obviously, Seattle is a team that I'm looking at with my Chicago Bears. So a guy like Charbonnet, who I have a fair amount of exposure to, who I really like. I really liked in college. I was very upset for him to go to Seattle because I'm a huge Kenny Walker guy as well. But there's still value there in both of those running backs. And it's probably going to line up pretty nicely for me to take Zach Charbonnet here. And that's the direction I will absolutely go. It makes sense. I need a running back, and there's correlation there. Just makes too much sense. 146. Do I take Cole Kmet ahead of ADP here? He's kind of rising. Cole Kmet's kind of rising, it looks like. I wonder if there's closing line value there. He's probably going to move ahead of TJ Hawkinson, you got to think. Hard to say about beating out Pat Freiermuth. He will not get ahead of Dalton Schultz. That would be a mistake, I think, by anybody. But I think he can get ahead of Hawkinson and maybe Pat Freiermuth. So I guess there could be some closing line value on Cole Kmet. I guess the tiebreaker will be Zach Charbonnet, which I should be able to get at 3 picks ahead of ADP. That'll be kind of my tiebreaker, is if I can get Zach Charbonnet, then I will bring up Cole Kmet. It's nothing crazy. It's only, I guess it's a full round, full 12 picks, my 12 pick rule that I do break sometimes. Yeah, that's probably what we're going to do. Fantasy Football Garage. Chris, what's happening, man? Good to see you. Thanks for coming out. Appreciate it. I think this is going to be pretty straightforward with Zach Charbonnet, Cole Kmet. And then I'm done at quarterback. I'm done at tight end. Oh, no. Cole Kmet's a week 7 bye, isn't he? Okay. Does that mean I go 3 tight ends? Probably, which I don't like. I think that Cole Kmet and Jake Ferguson would be enough at tight end, but it's not the worst. Obviously, it's definitely good for advance rates. Let's do Zach Charbonnet, because that's no doubt. And then I got to avoid week 5 buys for wide receivers. If it's a tiebreaker, I don't have to. It doesn't have to be a hard, firm rule. But there goes Dotson, who I would have really liked. I guess it is what it is. I'll take Cole Kmet, double stack my Caleb Williams. I've got to bring back for both of my week 17, bring back for week 15, bring back for week 16 on my quarterbacks. If you watch the show, you know how much I take Ty Chandler, so I could bring him in against the Chicago stack for week 15. Oh no, probably not, because he'll go. He's rising too, but 36%, 30 something percent. He's one of my highest exposed players, Ty Chandler. Big fan of Ty Chandler. So we'll see how that works out. But now I'm going to have to bring in a third tight end. So where do I stop, wide receiver or running back? That's going to depend on my next couple picks here. And then I'll probably be waiting. A guy like, Mike Gesicki might be someone I look at. We'll see if there's any correlation to be had as well. Mike or Ben Sinnott, maybe. That could correlate with my Jalen Hurts, with my Philly stack by week 14. So that would make sense. It's a little early than that. I would, I'd rather not take a third tight end within 14 rounds. That's for sure. But we'll see. We are getting creative with this build. We'll see. We'll see how it shakes out. Ricky Pearsall, I think that might be a little high. We'll see. What's this ADP sitting at? I don't know. He's getting there. That's another riser, Ricky Pearsall. He's been I have a fair amount of exposure personally, mostly because 10%. That's a good looking, number. Mostly because he's a bring back and a stack option. That's another guy you can backdoor the San Francisco drafter and get a unique stack, a unique build with San Francisco when you get George Kittle, then bring it back with Ricky Pearsall. Like I've got a few where I've got Kittle, Pearsall, Brock Purdy, and Jameson Williams as my, Detroit, San Francisco stack. That game is one that I'm absolutely hyper focused on. I'm drafting a ton of that game stack, whether it's, with the quarterback or just two players in the game. I'm stacking that game kind of wherever I can and however I can. I'm trying to get as unique as possible with that game because they're both teams that anyone can kind of score points almost at any time. So, a guy like Ricky Pearsall could have 2 catches, 120 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That could legit happen. Maybe 1 touchdown, but either way, that shows up in your lineup for week 17. A guy like Jahmyr Gibbs, he can bust off some big runs. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, Amon-Ra St. Brown. George Kittle. He's a spike week type of tight end. So I want to get unique with that game and have a little bit of exposure to every type of build that you can kind of have with that game and game stack. So I like the Ricky Pearsall click as long as it's within reason. Like I'm not trying to have, 50% Ricky Pearsall, but if you have 10, 15%, I'm personally fully on board with that. I've got, like I said, 10% myself. This could be a good time to take a falling Rico Dowdle if he's there, and that might make my decision a little different and easier at tight end. And he stacks up double bring back against my Philly double stack. I kind of dig that. There goes Burton. So that makes that decision a lot easier. Could bring in Bateman, who game stacks. That's nice. I got to try my best to avoid bye week 5 with my wide receivers if it's a tiebreaker, if it makes sense. It's not hard set in stone, that's for sure. But yeah, I'll take some huge value on Dowdle if he's there. If not, I probably do go with Bateman. So yeah, that makes too much sense with me. I'm really just not drafting much of Adam Thielen this year unless he falls 20, 30 picks past ADP, which you do see sometimes. And let's say I'm in a super weak wide receiver room, or I have, a super weak wide receiver room, then I might, as you can see, my 1% total, I have clicked them, but it's exceptionally, exceptionally rare. So yeah, we're going to take some value on Rico Dowdle, get a double bring back on the Dallas side. I like that. That's good. I'm happy with that. Considering I did what I did with Devontae Smith and pulled him up so high, trying to get a little bit unique here. And then it just makes too much sense to go with Rashad Bateman too. So let's go ahead and make that click. Kind of for me with Bateman, I don't have let's spell his name properly. 10%, I like that. That's where I want to be. Okay, good. I was hoping it wasn't higher. I was scared it was going to be like 15, 18% or something like that. I'm kind of just he's a bring back. He's a stack option. I'm not drafting a naked Bateman a ton, which is also another reason why I should be bringing him in here, because I really don't have probably any Bateman and Joe Mixon kind of game stacks. Not that that's exactly what you would want in that game. Houston against Baltimore. Baltimore's run D is typically pretty stout, and I don't particularly think that'll change this year. But Joe Mixon does catch a lot of passes, and then we'll see what happens with Bateman. But what I'm getting, I'm kind of just Jesus take the wheel on on Rashad Bateman. I'm just clicking him because, kind of how do you not have some exposure to Rashad Bateman? I don't have a hard, firm take on the guy. I would probably say I'm a little lower on him than a lot. I'm probably lower than consensus, if I'm being honest. Just because I don't particularly like a player and don't love drafting him doesn't mean I'm not going to, because in best ball, I pretty well will draft anyone and everyone up into a point, unless their ADP is super egregious to me. But there's only like 5 players that are in that, bucket. So pretty much anyone's on the table for me. I'd like to bring my Malachi Corley exposure a little bit down. I'm still okay with that. I'll draft 30% Malachi Corley if I think he's going to be the wide receiver 2 in that offense, which as it sits right now, I currently do think that. I think he could have a Randall Cobb in his second season with the Packers type of a season. Let's call it 100 targets, 60 catches, 800 to 900 yards, and 6 touchdowns. I think that's fully on the table for Malachi Corley. And at this ADP, in my opinion, that's an absolute steal. So that's my Malachi Corley take and why I have so much exposure. And I'll probably keep it there unless something changes in training camp that kind of makes me think the contrary. But I don't expect that that's going to come up, if I'm being honest. We'll see. But if you're in the chat, if you're hanging out, hit that like button if you don't mind. I'm going to rip another one after this. So like I said, I'm going to be smashing these puppies pretty much all night. We're going to do at least 2 on the stream here. Do a little fantasy football garage style and just rip drafts for 3 hours. We'll see. I probably won't be 3 hours, but I will do 2 drafts at least. Shout out to Fantasy Football Garage. It's always a good time watching the streams, pal. Appreciate you. Appreciate everyone in the chat. Hit that notification bell. Go live kind of sporadically. Actually, it's a good time to mention I'm going on doing a guest spot tomorrow night on Once Upon a Fantasy Football. It's called. Josh Kimmel and Justin Bowerly run that channel. So we're going to do some rookie ADP check talk. So go check that one out. I'll be on that show tomorrow night. And then Thursday, we're going to have a guest on this show, which I don't have a ton of guests typically, but we're going to be bringing on one of the OGs, friend of the show, been on the show a few times. He's my most, I guess, experienced, or he's been on the show more than anyone. I'll say that. Eagles, James Brimacombe will be on the show on Thursday night. It's already scheduled in. So again, hit that notification bell, pop in, come say hi. One of the OGs of best ball, hyper volume drafter. He's kind of slowed down a little bit this year with just, being a little more choosy, but the guy still drafts a ton more than me. So, and definitely has some solid takes that are typically different than your average, bear out there. He doesn't just draft ADP. He doesn't follow the rules, which I appreciate. And I like having different kind of ideologies and takes. But either way, come check it out. Thursday night, James Brimacombe, same time. We're going to have some fun. Canadian too. one of my Canadian brethren. So it's always nice to get a Canadian kid on the channel. So what are we doing? Probably Bucky Irving. Only 10%. That's okay. I like that. 15% overall looks like, but it's kind of a cliff after that. Could definitely go actually Braylon Allen, and that's the way I will go. I still think there's a little bit of value to be had with Braylon Allen. It looks like I'm going to have to try to be okay with 7 wide receivers, I guess, or I just say fuck it and I'm okay with 2 bye week 7 tight ends. That's not a bad strategy. It is a viable strategy in my opinion, but I think they need to be more elite than these 2. By I mean, I know. You have to get better, points. Like if you go Dalton Kincaid, Evan Ingram, which I've done a lot, both have bye week 12. I've done a few times and I'm okay with that. I'm just going to punt tight end in bye week 12 because I think I'll have enough points from the rest of the year essentially to try to get there. What are we doing here then? I would have definitely went Bucky Irvin. I guess Troy Franklin's the click here and just try to take the value and just, end of the season type value with his quarterback in college, Bo Nix, that sort of a, ideology. I guess if now, like, I'm really, really kind of regretting the George Pickens click here. It just didn't happen the way that I thought it would and kind of wanted it to, but those KC wide receivers are going to move up. So I understand why it didn't work that way. But either way, it is what it is. Again, it would be like Tank Dell. And then maybe I don't go Joe Mixon, or it's T Higgins. And I'm not happy about it because I don't love T Higgins this year. Zay Flowers was actually who I was really thinking about clicking. And that would have been fine. Then I probably don't bring in Rashad Bateman. And then things change a little bit, not the end of the world. Chuba Hubbard went early. Wow. Usually he's, falling and I have to click him because he's fallen too far. But I'd like to get my exposure down if I can. But if guys don't start taking him where he's supposed to go, then I'm going to keep clicking him. So if he doesn't keep going before pick 180-ish, I'm going to click his name. But we'll see. Maybe I'm the only one on Chuba. I got about 30-something%. He's one of my highest exposed players. I just think there's still value in him, especially early in the season. So back to this tight end situation. I don't think I'm elite enough basically anywhere to pull that off. So I think I'm going to have to be okay with 7 wide receivers and just say to myself that the Eagles smash, they get back to being, one of, if not the best offense in the NFL. A little less tush push, a little more Dak Prescott, with Kellen Moore coming in. And hope that these 2 wide receivers can carry me with AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and George Pickens is, a little bit better than he was last year. Rome Odunze. Yeah. I think I just have to kind of try to convince myself that it's going to work out because I'm certainly not strong enough at running back. Yeah. I shouldn't have got too creative with the Devontae Smith, George Pickens. I really don't like this team. I think it's actually, it's structurally, it's fine. And that's what I always say, roster construction is all that matters. And, it's true. It's structurally okay. But, and, I could bring in Mike Gesicki, I guess, to pair up with my Troy Franklin week 17. That's who I wanted earlier in the draft anyways, or I was talking about him earlier. He does correlate. That makes sense. Minnesota and Washington, it's not going to happen. So might as well correlate with a player that I like as well. I think Mike Gesicki, I'm on board with him now. Early in the offseason, I wasn't so sure about Mike Gesicki. Even just after he signed with the Bengals, I was kind of worried about, Tanner Hudson still being there. But from a few things I've heard in training camp or in OTAs, sorry, about Mike Gesicki, it sounds like he's looking really good with Joe Burrow. So I'm going to be drafting him a fair amount. I'm at about 10%. I'd like to get that up to about 15%, Mike Gesicki. But we'll see how that kind of shakes out. So 2 picks left. Then we're going to do another draft. And tight end's going to be one of them. And I think it has to be running back. Probably take Bigsby if he's there. If not, Tank Bigsby. I might have to just take another wide receiver, which is probably what's going to happen. Especially, I mean, if Tank goes, mind you, he shouldn't, because this guy needs to go with a wide receiver. You really have to. A little bit overboard. I really don't like the structure of this team. I would have been fine with just Stroud and Watson. Nix doesn't really do much to help this team. And then 3 tight ends that are all pretty quality. You could have went with any combination of 2 of these tight ends personally. But whatever, to each their own. And he goes Isaac Orendo. Wow. 3-6-5-3, probably going to be a 3-6-6-3, I'd imagine, by the end of it. But I don't think I can get behind that build personally. But that's okay. What do I know? So Tank Bigsby, and then Mike Gesicki, and then we're ripping another puppy. As long as Mike Gesicki's still there, he is the highest. Yeah, we're good. Okay. I don't completely love this team, but I don't completely hate it either. And again, structurally, it's fine. So I can hang my hat on that, I suppose. I don't think it's really elite like anywhere. I guess you could say my quarterbacks are pretty elite. Sure. My quarterback room is fine. I think there's some upside with my running back room. And there's obviously upside to my wide receiver room. So I guess the upside factor is there. My tight end should be pretty steady Eddie with those 3 players. So this team could get there. It's possible. I wouldn't say I love it, but I wouldn't say I completely hate it either. But let's jump into another puppy. If you're in the draft, you want to draft me, let's rip one. It's going to fill quick, waiting on 8. So if you're in the chat and you want to get in, better jump in. They're going to fill. These puppies are going to fill super, super fast. And the Best Ball Manias are going to slow right down. You're going to have to be waiting like Dalmatian times for a Best Ball Mania, I think, at times. So already full. We're jumping in. Pick number 9. If anyone's in the chat and you're in the draft, let me know. We'll keep an eye on your team. Hopefully we're not close and sniping each other. Canadian DH. I like that. Obviously he's probably Canadian. What's up? I don't know who that is though. Space Funk. I don't know if I've seen that name before. Fidel Cashflow. That's a really cool name. I like that. That's awesome. Fidel Castro. Cash flow. I like it. Wow, this is super badgeless. This is one of the most badgeless rooms I've probably ever seen, which means shit could get really wild. Let's see what happens. This could get really, really interesting. As long as it doesn't get thrown out, do not waste my time. If it gets crazy quick, we'll throw the airplane mode on and jump in another puppy to make it worth our while. But we'll see. Fingers crossed. That's always a risky kind of run with these badgeless rooms. You can see some crazy shit, and obviously guys are doing something and trying to essentially cheat, right? Putt Daddy too slow. I told you, man, you got to be quick. It's unfortunate. I wish you got in, man. That would have been fun. These puppies are gonna fill like just snap your fingers and it fills. If you get into a room and you're waiting on 11. Don't worry about it. It'll fill in 2 seconds. So if you're drafting Best Ball Manias, it's going to really slow down, I feel like, which is fine. I want that tournament to catch up to me, like I said earlier. I mean, I do like Breece Hall. I just don't particularly want to be clicking him a crazy amount right here. Perfect. I'm okay with that. Let's go Puka and take an outside chance that Marvin Harrison falls to 16. If he does, cool. If he doesn't, that's fine still. Just want to build it a little bit differently with AJ Brown, the last one. Mind you, it could take AJ Brown and try to build it different. Let's do that. Let's do that just for shits and giggles. See how we can build this differently. Obviously, we will not be bringing up Devontae Smith in this. Jake Ham is in the 108. Big toes 5'2". What's that mean, man? I gotta ask. What is that? What is that? Big toes 52? You just got big ass toes, or what? What's that all about, man? Big toes 52. That's like the most auto-generated, generic, weird name I've seen. Big toes. You got to put something in the chat, bro. I need to know. Waiting on 16, so I won't be bringing up Devontae Smith. That is for sure. Let's see what else we can do to get unique here. Ayuk, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Brandon Ayuk. Let's talk about Brandon Ayuk in a second here. As soon as I make this pick, we'll have some time. I want to dig into Brandon Ayuk some more. We've been, he's obviously been pretty. He's a pretty big. Oh, and there goes the Puka and Harrison. Let's see how he finishes it out. Sugar water, I love that. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, it's from Men in Black with Egger asking for some sugar water. Sugar in water. Don't mind me. Do I go with Brandon Ayuk here? Do I bring up a guy like Debo, who I love? I'm not really sure how Jalen Waddle's getting pulled up ahead of Debo. Do I go with Jonathan Taylor? Let's go with Devontae Adams. Yeah. That's all right. Jonathan Taylor it is. I'm okay with that. Let's talk about Brandon Ayuk. So big toes 52. Jake just took Brandon Ayuk. Let's talk about Brandon Ayuk. I don't mind. Here's the thing. I like the player. Like I said in the stream last week, if I'm the 49ers, if I'm John Lynch, if I'm building that team, I sign Brandon Ayuk to a contract that he's worth, which is, 28, basically what Jalen Waddle got, right? That's what he's worth right now. Maybe you could throw an extra 1 million on top of that or something like that, 29, whatever. Putt Daddy just went AJ Brown, Ayuk in the 10 spot. Yeah, that's something I was certainly thinking about doing there. Jake says my brother made it up and he was number 52 in football. Interesting. He just made had to have come from somewhere, but that's funny. Big toes, 52 linebacker. Hey, had to be. I like it. Brandon Ayuk. So what I would do is I would sign Brandon Ayuk to a four-year deal, probably 4 years, call it 29 million AAV, something like that. Push it down the road, 3-year deal, whatever. How you want to structure it, be my guest. But that's what I would do. And then after this season is over, you have to explore something with Debo, probably either letting him go, trading him, whatever it is. That's kind of the way you have to do it, because then you have to pay Brock Purdy. They have the money right now, as we talked about last week. Sorry, they have tons of cap space right now to make this happen with Brandon Ayuk. To me, it seems like he's being ridiculous. That whole TikTok he put out recently where they said they don't want me, whatever. No, they don't want you at the number that you want, some crazy ass Justin Jefferson number that's never going to happen, man. Like, you are a very good wide receiver, don't get me wrong, but you are not Justin Jefferson. So take it easy. take the money that you deserve, which is 28, 29 million a year. You think that's not enough money? I don't know what to tell you. And then they got to explore something with Debo because he is getting a little bit older. He has played this hybrid role, so he's taking more hits and more punishing hits than a wide receiver typically does. So miles are going to be put on him a little bit harder, in my opinion. Maybe I'm completely wrong or out to lunch on that, but I really don't think I am. Let's make a pick. And I'm probably going to go with, you know what? I have hardly any. I really don't want to take Kyron, but man, I have hardly any Kyron Williams. Honestly, I just can't do Kyron Williams over Derrick Henry. I just cannot, and I don't have enough Derrick Henry. Let's bring in some King Henry on this one. Back to Ayuk. I sign Ayuk. I think Debo's taking a lot of punishment. Plus he got paid already. You kind of have to wash your hands with that. You got to pay Brock Purdy. George Kittle's going to be due some more money, right? So who else is coming up in that team? I'm sure there's some other contracts they couldn't pay Mike McGlinchey, right? And they couldn't pay Eric Armstead. There's always something going on there, right? Where they have to trade a guy away. They do a great job replenishing in free agency, which again, we talked about all this last week, but that's kind of what I do. So I think that Brandon Ayuk will be on the 49ers. One thing I want to talk about with these two wide receivers that are acting out, T. Higgins and Brandon Ayuk. I think both of them will be playing on the teams. Obviously, now T. Higgins will be. He signed that one-year deal today, yesterday, whatever it was, signed a one-year deal. We don't know how much it's even for, but it's obviously more than the franchise tag, obviously, right? A little bit. So he signed with the team. I get it. That's awesome. Do I take Jalen Hurts here anyways? George Pickens isn't a bad click here, actually, again, either. I do really not mind wide receiver right now. But then what do I do? I can just bring back some late stacks and just figure it out. Just take Jalen Hurts on me and make it easy. Give me 2 seconds. We're going to finish up this conversation a little bit. It's either Pickens or Hurts. Who do I want to go with? So with T. Higgins and Brandon Ayuk, I think they both play for the teams that they're on currently. And if I'm those teams, holy Christian Kirk. Actually, that's not crazy, I guess. Okay. I take George Pickens ahead of him personally, but I don't despise that. There goes Pickens. Maybe the bling is in the chat, but probably not. So this is an easy Jalen Hurts click. That just makes too much sense with where I'm at right now. Got to do it. So they play on those teams. They play on the 49ers. They play on the Bengals. And if I'm the Bengals and I'm the 49ers, I say, what do you think? Like if you say you're unmotivated, if you say, there's that could be a take where it's, these players aren't motivated. They don't want to be there. They don't want to play, right? Which I just said about T. Higgins, and I fully do agree with. And I think that is part of it. So if I'm the team, if I'm the coaches, well, probably not the coaches. Sorry. If I'm the GM, if I'm the team, I say, what do you think you're going to get? What does T. Higgins think he's going to get for a contract if he goes out and has the season he had last year? If T. Higgins goes out and has a similar season to this, what do you think teams are going to pay him in free agency? Do you think he's going to get that $28 million, that Jalen Waddle money he's looking for? Because I sure as shit don't think so. No one's going to pay him what he thinks he's worth unless he gets back to, at the very least, this right here. Personally, I've always thought that T. Higgins is a wide receiver too. There's a lot of people out there that think he's a wide receiver one in waiting. Oh, they have 2 wide receiver ones. He just needs his opportunity, blah, blah, blah. And it's just not happened. Anytime that opportunity has come up, he hasn't shown it. I watch every single game. I watch every single Bengals game every single week. I do not see it out of T. Higgins. He doesn't have that explosion, and he has stone hands at times. So if I'm the team, I say, you know what you need to do? You need to put up some numbers. You want to get paid, whether it's by us or anybody else in this league. You want to get paid, you better put up some numbers this year. That's what I say. And then, I always revert back to it. It was, what was the movie? Little Big League, I believe, right? Where he's talking to that pitcher who doesn't want to be there. And he says, hey, what's the going rate for a right-handed pitcher who can't get anybody out? Not very high, right? What's the going rate for a wide receiver who can't catch a football? Probably not very high, right? So that's what I think about this T. Higgins, Brandon Ayuk situation. Ayuk is in the same boat. He's got to put up the similar numbers that he did last year. 1,300 yards, 7 touchdowns. We see this progression. This looks really good. The stat profile looks really good. He has shown a higher ceiling than a guy like T. Higgins. That's why he's being drafted higher. He has a higher ADP, which he should. And I agree with. I'm perfectly fine with. I'm drafting Brandon Ayuk. I'm not particularly drafting T. Higgins. But he has to do that again if he wants to get the money that he thinks and feels he deserves. So we'll see how that shakes out for those two players. That's just the way that I see it personally. And I'm probably going to go with Dalton Kincaid here. I just think that he is the number one pass catching option on this team by a fair margin, and I don't particularly think it's close. I could easily see him getting that serious tight end volume, that kind of Travis Kelce volume. I could see him getting 130, 140 targets this year. I really, really could. So I'm pretty in on Dalton Kincaid. I'll take him at about a half round discount. I think that there's a fair amount of closing line value on Dalton Kincaid. For me, he's tight end 2. I have Sam Laporta as my tight end 1. Then I have Dalton Kincaid. Then it's Trey McBride. Then it's Mark Andrews. And then it's Travis Kelce. That's my tight end rankings. I just think they're going to want to keep Travis Kelce healthy for the playoffs. They're going for the 3-peat. They want to win a championship. Doesn't really matter. They'll get to the playoffs, win enough games. They'll be fine. And make sure you're healthy for the playoffs and make that playoff push. This is an interesting build. It's a little bit different. Obviously, hero, whatever, RB, both with bye week 14, which I don't particularly love, but this ensures I'm 100% stopping at least 5. Could be 4, but we'll see. I'd really like to take Jaden Reed here, but I think he'll probably go to the bling. Yeah, there you go. So then I bring in I don't want to bring in Roma Dunze again. But I kind of have to. I really... The reason why I don't want to take anybody else here is because I want to bring another quarterback into the equation here. And that's obviously going to be Caleb Williams again. I would bring in Brian Thomas Jr., but by week 12, I'm hoping to get Evan Ingram as well, and then stacking up Dalton Kincaid and Evan Ingram, which I think is a viable strategy. I do. I think it's fine to have those 2 tight ends with bye week 12 and just punt it in week 12, punt the tight end position. I'm perfectly fine with that. But my concern is that I'm too weak at wide receiver to do that. That's my concern with that type of a strategy right here. Would I even get Evan Ingram? Maybe 81, maybe couple picks back to ADP, nothing crazy. I hate that I'm building very similar teams in back-to-back streams for you guys. I want to get a little bit different and unique, but it is what it is. At least we're having some different conversations. So I don't want to build, a losing team or what I perceive to be as a losing team. And I think this team is stronger than the last stream. I think I have elite tight end. I have elite running back. I have elite quarterback. Wide receiver room is a little bit light, but I believe I can probably catch up. We'll see what happens. If I get some falling value at the running back room, I won't hesitate to take a third running back before my third wide receiver, if I'm being honest. Yeah, we'll see. AJ Hurts, AJ Brown, Hurts stack, always a strong way to start. Yeah, again, if they get back to even just where they're at right now, to be honest with you, there's nothing wrong with where they're at right now. But I would like to see Jalen Hurts take a step forward as a as a passer and have, get to that 30 touchdown plateau passing. Not that that's like better or worse. Well, technically, it would probably be a touch worse for his fantasy production, because obviously, that probably will lead to less rushing touchdowns, which I think is going to happen anyways. So I'm drafting Jalen Hurts like he's going to drop. Personally, I'm drafting Jalen Hurts like he's going to drop off with rushing touchdowns, but throw more touchdown passes. That's how I feel about with Kellen Moore coming into Philadelphia. I feel like that's naturally going to be how it works out. But we'll see. And looks like I maybe could have gotten Evan Ingram here. One more pick. So I now, if he's there, I'm even more happy that I didn't take Brian Thomas Jr., if that makes any sense. And there you go. So I could have went Brian Thomas Jr., Evan Ingram, then bring in, Trevor Lawrence, but that's just not what I wanted to do here. So now I'm going to have to take a third running back. And I'm going to go David Montgomery because I don't have enough exposure to him, and it just makes sense in this build. So there you go. David Montgomery. Not that I don't like him. It's certainly, I don't have, it's not that I don't like David Montgomery that I have or don't have any exposure. It just doesn't particularly work out. Usually he's gone. He's the first one in this kind of RB, just, waterfall right here. He's kind of the first running back to go. And typically he's gone before I start picking in this, again, this kind of waterfall or whatever you want to call it. In this running back range where they just fly off the board. So, I could take Jake Ferguson here, but I'm not going to. I might just take another running back and be completely done. That's not the worst. It obviously can't be Ramondre. I would go with Najee. If it's Najee, then I'm done at running back. And then just hope that my two, maybe I would take a late one. We'll see. Could go with a guy like Swift, but I don't love Caleb Williams throwing to running backs. He didn't really in college, and I don't particularly think that changes a ton. And who's to say that DeAndre Swift is even the pass catcher in that offense? Roschon Johnson had 30 plus catches last year. Swift did too, but I just don't think that that's kind of in stone enough for me. I probably would have went Jalen Warren there, but let's go with, I kind of want to take Lockett here. And then if I take Lockett, then I have to get Caleb Williams for me. And then I have to get Kincaid. And I'm fine with doing that. And I still might bring in Zach Charbonnet to have that double bring back. I really like having double stack or triple stack with a double bring back in week 17. I like doing that a fair amount. If it's a game that I think will either be a little bit low owned and underexposed, or B, a game that I think is absolutely going to go off, but will have a lot of exposure, like San Francisco, Detroit. So yeah, I'm going to have a little bit of exposure to kind of both of those things. Even Philly last draft, Philly That was a double stack with double bring back. But either way, you get what I'm getting at here. I like doing that in those types of games. And Chicago and Seattle is a game that I think will be a little less exposed for that week 17 game stack, especially if it's a double triple stack with double bring back sort of a thing. So really that game has to go off. But again, like I say it all the time, Pat Carrane won a couple of years ago with a stack that nobody particularly thought was going to be the game that you needed, Tampa Bay and Carolina, right? That was a game that you needed that year, and hardly anybody had it except for Pat Carrane, and he wins. There you go. So in the finals, obviously you got to get there and then have that stack available to you. So I'll take my shots. I'll take my chances on a relatively low owned game stack. And the likelihood of it being like this is even less likely, which means that hopefully I can get there. Again, Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry. I'm not going with, Odunze and DJ Moore and DK Metcalf, a stack like that. It's a little less owned, a little less exposed. So that's what my thoughts are on why I'm building it out that way. But I'm going to be very fairly fragile at wide receiver here. Fairly fragile at wide receiver, but I've kind of just backed myself into that corner, and I'm prepared to lie in the bed that I have made for myself. And there goes Caleb Williams, probably naked. Oh no, he's got Keenan Allen, and he can always bring back Komet. I get that. So now I'm done with this stack. So now what I want to do, probably, I could go one of two ways. I could go Cleveland right here with David Njoku, or I could bring in Pat Freiermuth and Roman Wilson with a Pittsburgh stack. And then the two Pittsburgh quarterbacks. Which I don't love. But I might try. I'm going to bring in Romeo Doubs here, and I'm going to give that a whirl. It's going to be this is an interesting team. I don't think I have any other team that's even closely resembles this one. Obviously, with my David Montgomery exposure being so low, and even Tyler Lockett, this is a very unique build. Getting a little creative, and then maybe I'll bring back like a Clyde Edwards-Helaire with the Pittsburgh side if I can make that happen. We'll see. Don't have a Dallas bring back yet, but Brandon Cooks is still out there. Jalen Tolbert's still out there. Yeah, we're getting creative tonight. We're definitely getting creative. We're definitely getting unique tonight. This is not a normal, typical OTS draft. I'm going to go with another running back here. And I'm going to be taking Brian Robinson Jr. if he is there. If not, do I take my first share of Devin Singletary? No, I do not. I take Brian Robinson Jr. Oh my God, bye week 14. I do that so much. Not that much, but I do it sometimes and it pisses me off. Now I gotta get 5 running backs. What an idiot. Sometimes I just look at structure and think about structure, and I don't even look at bye weeks. That's a real kick in the nuts that I just did to myself. Should have been Devin Singletary. Correlation was there. Uniqueness was there. What an idiot. What are you going to do? Happens to the best of us. This is a weird team. I don't even know what I'm doing at this point. I don't even know where I'm going with this. It might have to be like a 3-5-7-3 type of a build. Jake just auto picked. Was it Herbert? Oh, dang. A little bit of a reach. You could recover from that. That's not a big deal. 20 picks before ADP. Nah. I lit my $5 on fire more than you did, my friend. with this running back room that I've constructed for myself. Yeah, unless I just get there, for if Derrick Henry and Jonathan Taylor stay healthy for the entire season, I might be fine. That might be asking a fair amount. I probably will be fine, to be honest, if they stay healthy. But I was potentially going to stop at 4 running backs. Now I cannot do that. So yeah. Lockett was my 6th wide receiver at 106. What happened was I was trying to build out a Chicago stack there with Tyler Lockett falling behind at wide receiver. So I had to bring up Tyler Lockett, and then I was going to be taking Caleb Williams, Cole Kmet, hopefully Charbonnet, have a triple stack with a double bring back, boom, boom, boom. That was my plan. And then the Keenan Allen drafter punched me in the nuts on that one. So fair play to him. That's how she goes. Like I said, this is probably it's definitely one of the most unique builds I've had, but probably one of the teams I hate more than anything. Really don't like this team whatsoever, but we'll see if I can land the plane here. It's getting interesting. I could certainly bring in Dallas Goedert, who just went, and I don't have any exposure to. I just don't love him. He's got to fall a little bit for me, but it would have made sense in this build. Brandon Cooks would have made tons of sense, but there he goes. Geez. I could go with Jerome Ford, I guess, but I'm just falling way behind at wide receiver. I will take Pat Freiermuth. And then Robin Wilson later. So now I should have went with David Njoku is the direction I should have went instead of picking Dobbs there. Should have went with David Njoku. Then I could have brought in Jerry Jeudy here, bring it back with Deshaun Watson. There goes Jerome Ford. So I guess I could still go with Jerry Jeudy here and just, try to land this plane a little bit. Jahan Dotson is on the table as well to pair up with my Philadelphia Eagles. Let's go Jerry Jeudy. Let's continue to get different. Let's continue to stay unique. You might as well. I might as well continue down this path. If I get Pat Freiermuth, which I probably should, that'll allow me to stop at 2. That will allow me to stop at 2 tight ends. I can get 5 running backs and 3 quarterbacks. That might be how I try to land this plane. It's this plane has one engine on fire. And I'm trying to land it here, but it's obviously hard to control. It's hard to control this plane with one engine on fire, but we'll see if we can get there. I kind of like this. Is kind of fun is what I'm getting at. This is kind of fun. So we're going Pat Freiermuth. That allows me to stop at 2 tight ends. So 2, 5, 10, 8. So 3, 5, 8, 2. Interesting. Done at tight end. Yeah, this is a weird one. As long as I can get Roman Wilson at 153, I got a chance to land this plane. If I don't, which I probably won't. It's gonna be pretty mediocre at best. But we'll see. Basically, I think I need to get past, I guess, the uh, George Pickens drafter who's behind me. So that's not really a thing. Or I guess Travis Kelce here. Where's Hollywood and Worthy, Rashee Rice right here. Yeah, kind of anybody. Realistically, anybody could take Roman Wilson if you have any reason to. And I wouldn't really fault you, but it is what it is. Quentin Johnston on the board. Yeah. Gino. Gino's not a bad click here, actually. That makes a lot of sense for me. Deshaun Watson's still on the table. Not that I want to go down that road, but I could go Jalen Hurts and Gino and call it a day, and then bring in another wide receiver. That's not the worst. If I don't get Roman Wilson, that's the direction I go. Yeah, we still got some options open. It's not completely dried up on us yet. Lots of wide receivers. Quentin Johnston, Jermaine Burton, even Darnell Mooney makes sense. Yeah, we might just get out of this. we might just get out of this turbulence. First tight end, TJ Hawkinson. Okay. QJ, Fidel Cashflow. Like the name. Jermaine Burton's on the table. Darnell Mooney's on the table. Malachi Corley would be on the table for me. And then Gino hanging out. We'll see. We'll see how this shakes out. Jermaine Burton would have been nice. It's a good click. So we're bringing in Roman Wilson. And we're going to try to get creative with this. So Darnell Mooney. So we're looking at 3, 5, 8, 2, most likely. So I've got a couple wide receiver spots. Darnell Mooney would fit. Bateman, I don't like. Corley would be fine. One more running back that I can probably wait on for the next wraparound. I can certainly wait for the next wraparound. So, yeah, Darnell Mooney or Malachi Corley it is. That's pretty straightforward, I think. There goes Corley. That's fine. I'll take some Darnell Mooney, continue to be unique, and get some Week 17 correlation. Cool. We're getting out of this. We're getting out of this turbulence. Clear skies ahead. It's a little, it's a late night, 2 a.m. Not a lot of options left at the bar, kind of a situation, Not a lot of options left, but beggars can't be choosers. That's kind of where we're at here. But we're making it work, I think. Let me know what you think in the chat. You think this is a hideous team? Because it's pretty ugly, but we're going to land this plane. A.J. Brown, Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, Jalen Hurts, Dalton Kincaid. I like my start. It started with so much promise, and then it went all downhill from there. Dalton Kincaid, Rome Odunze, David Montgomery, Tyler Lockett, Romeo Dobbs, Brian Robinson, Jerry Jeudy, Pat Freiermuth, Roman Wilson, Darnell Mooney. I got Darnell Mooney at a huge discount, didn't I? Yeah. 11 pick discount. I'll take that. Jeudy at a bit of a discount. Reached on Lockett and, as Putt Daddy let us know that was not necessary and didn't really make tons of sense at the end of the day. There goes Gino. Wow, Lamar, Tua, and Gino. That just doesn't make sense. That just doesn't make sense structurally. It just doesn't. But I mean, hey, it doesn't make sense to take 3, running backs with the same bye week either when you're only drafting 5. But what are you going to do? So 177. Wow, did Braylon Allen go already? I don't think I could take him. I think bye weeks don't line up. Oh no, bye week 12. Who would line up? Perfect. I'm gonna take Braylon Allen if he's there, probably. Or, I actually have tons of options here. Chuba, Bucky, not Antonio Gibson, but Chuba and Bucky are on the table. There goes Bucky Irving. Or I can take a little Tyrone Tracy. I'm forcing myself off the Eric Gray train until I get some more clarity there. Not that I'm not drafting him, not that I don't like my exposure. Well, I am not drafting him a little bit. I'm forcing myself off of that train. It's been up and down for both guys. There's been some buzz around Tyrone Tracy. He was at 170 or so, fell down. Now he's moving back up a little bit. So he was down to the 190s-ish, and he's kind of creeping back up. So that could be a direction that I go eventually. Wan'Dale Robinson would be a very quality click for me right here. And then that would allow me to land this wide receiver, playing a little bit. Definitely gets me correlation with a lot of week 17 correlation, but I'm going to go Braylon Allen because I don't think there's another running back that I would be happy with stopping at 5, especially when it's bye week 14 late in the season. If Breece Hall gets a little banged up, I'm not saying he gets hurt for the season, but let's say he gets banged up late in the season and they're kind of, they're making a playoff push. They, maybe not save him for the playoffs, obviously, but like he takes a week off. It's bye week 14. Boom, Braylon Allen comes in. Everybody's happy. That's a lot of ifs and buts, but hey, we're gonna cross our fingers on that. So we're done at running back. We're done at tight end. Probably one more wide receiver, and then these 2 quarterbacks. I mean, should work, right? It should work. This makes too much sense. And Wan'Dale's still there. I'm going Wan'Dale Robinson. I would have taken Jalen Hyatt. That's why I just let it play out. This is actually I'm coming around. I'm coming around on this team a little bit. Yeah, I need to get there points wise with my running backs before they all go on a bye. That's completely doable considering it's Jonathan Taylor and Derrick Henry. That's completely doable. Jalen Hurts is in my lineup every single week except for bye week 5, pretty much is what I'm saying. I would like to have a bring back and another pass catching option here, but again, beggars can't be choosers. I'm trying to get this put back together, Humpty Dumpty style. So, and same thing with Pittsburgh. I have no KC options, but I'm stacked with bringbacks on 15 and 16. So again, beggars can't be choosers here. There's enough green to make me happy enough. This could be my first time getting this Pittsburgh stack. By stack, I mean both quarterbacks. It's interesting. It's definitely unique. It's definitely interesting. I think I landed this plane. I'm actually, fairly okay with this team. I'm pretty okay with this team. I actually think I have a pretty solid tight end room. Really nothing wrong with Don Kincaid, Pat Freiermuth. That's completely fine. Elite tight end and a solid, pairing. I don't particularly love my wide receiver room, but it's really not that bad. It's really not that bad. AJ Brown's obviously carrying me. Roma Dunze, I need to get there. Tyler Lockett, I need just to do Tyler Lockett things. Romeo Dobbs hopefully takes a step forward. Jerry Jeudy, I don't really love that, but didn't have a ton of options at the time. Roman Wilson stacked up, hopefully. Darnell Mooney, bring back. Wan'Dale Robinson, bring back. Potential there with the new quarterback, new scenery. Wan'Dale Robinson, I actually just really like Wan'Dale Robinson personally. So yeah, we're kind of getting there. We're kind of getting there. Don't despise it. I was pretty borderline embarrassed for a few minutes there with the way that this team was shaping up. But we're getting there. We're gonna land this sucker. We might be landing in the Hudson, but we're landing it. All right. The motto for today's episode is beggars cannot be choosers. And right now, I'm begging. I'm begging for this. So there you go. It's not if you're afraid to be wrong, you'll never be right. It's beggars can't be choosers. That's the saying today. Yeah, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. Justin Fields, high upside. Hopefully, he plays later on in the season. And ain't nobody drafting Russell Wilson. I don't even know how his ADP is at 210. Is the Superflex mixed in here? How is his ADP at 210? I don't know, but nobody's drafting Russell Wilson. Unless you're me in this scenario that we're looking at right here. But yeah, man, we're getting there. I'm happy with this. I'm happy with this. Sort of. I'm sort of happy with this. Hit that like button. You're still chilling with me. I appreciate you guys coming out. Appreciate everybody in the chat. J Cam draft with me. Putt Daddy, always happy to see you. It sounds like you're having a better draft than me from the same or similar position over here, but we're making it work. We're making it work for us. We'll take a look at Big Toes. Jake Ham. We'll take a look at his team at the end here. I haven't been paying attention. I've been trying to just piece together, just paper mache this roster that I'm putting together somehow. But we'll take a look at your squad in a second here. Give you my thoughts a little bit. Anyone else, if you're in the chat, if you drafted in this, let me know. We'll take a look at your roster, take a look at your team, see how you did. Probably better than me, but you never know. I feel like this might be elite enough in the places where I am strong that it's possible for me to advance this team. Basically, wide receiver and tight end, I think, are my two strongest areas. And then potentially just good enough at quarterback, obviously with Jalen Hurts, and then just I'm getting the Pittsburgh starter, right? So that's fine. Yeah. We landed this plane. We landed this sucker. I'm not super upset. I was pretty butthurt for a bit there. Basically, right around this Jerry Jeudy, right after that Brian Robinson pick, that was terrible. That didn't make tons of sense. Should have been Tajay Spears probably, just for the bye week. Jeez, give me this. There we go. Just for the bye week would have made more sense. But that's okay. We made it work. We made it work somehow. Interesting. That's the first time I've gotten this double Pittsburgh quarterback kind of thing, kind of stack. I don't want to call it a stack, but you know what I'm saying? It's the first time I've gotten that, and I've tried a couple times. Every time Justin Fields gets pulled up for God knows why. I guess I could see why, but it just didn't make tons of sense at the time. Let's take a look. Let's wait till the end here because it'll kick me out of your team. So give me two more picks here. and we'll chat about the team. 57 best ball manias, a little higher than I'd like. 15 poodles. I got 5 slows going, so we're maxing that. Puppy 2, only 2 so far, both tonight. Dalmatian maxed out. Let's take a look at this draft. Let's pull up Big Toes 52. Kyler Murray, Justin Herbert. I know you accidentally auto-clicked Justin Herbert. That's unfortunate, but let's see what you had around that spot. Let's look at the whole team first, then we'll dig into that. Kyler Murray, Justin Herbert, don't mind that. That's quality. You got your pocket passer, potential spike week type of guy with Justin Herbert, high floor type of quarterback. Definitely can run a little bit too. If he wasn't so banged up last year, he would have ran a little bit more. Kyler Murray obviously uses his legs a fair amount. Got him at ADP. Bye weeks don't match. Dig it. Breece Hall, Zamir White, Tony Pollard, Kendre Miller, Khalil Herbert, and Roschon Johnson. I like that. 6 running backs. I like that. You have a little bit of contingency potential value there if Khalil Herbert should not be on this team and go somewhere else. Then you have a Bears running back and a potential running back on another team that could be a starter. If it's a team like the Cowboys, he certainly could walk into starting for the Cowboys tomorrow. So don't mind that. I am actually a little bit higher on Tony Pollard than most probably are. I just like him at ADP. You got him a little bit past, which is cool. No reaches here. Big discount on Roschon, so I'm fine with that. That looks good. I like your running back room, your quarterback room as well. Brandon Ayuk, Zay Flowers, Xavier Worthy, Lad McConkey, Dontavian Wicks, Jermaine Burton, Rashad Bateman, Tyler Boyd. I dig that. You brought back a high floor type of a player, Tyler Boyd. I shouldn't call it high floor, but like a mid floor. He's double digit potential every week. He could be at, mind you, it's only half PPR, but 8 points, call it. If he gets, 4 catches, 40 yards and mixes in the odd touchdown, right? 6 touchdowns or so. That kind of makes up for a lot of these young potential boom bust type of wide receivers. But I dig that. A lot of first and second year wide receivers, playmakers. Second year Zay Flowers, rookie. Second year Wicks, rookie. I don't mind that room at all. Travis Kelce, Kate Auden, I'm happy with that. Travis Kelce at ADP. I don't personally draft a ton of Travis Kelce at all, but that doesn't mean he's a bad click whatsoever. So perfectly fine with that. Kate Auden, I just don't get a lot of exposure to for no real rhyme or reason, but I just don't. Correlation definitely could have used some work. That's the only gripe that I have with this squad. There's just really not much for correlation. And my motto is just I'm selling out. I'm pretty much completely selling out for week 17 with these 2 structures in Best Ball Mania 5 and this Puppy 2 structure. I'm basically just selling out. Not completely, like it does have to make sense. It has to make sense. And so let's take a look at the Justin Herbert accident there. I mean, it probably would have been. Who do you go with? Tajay Spears, maybe? Like, there's really no wide receivers in this area. Like, I am not clicking Mike Williams, period. I'm not clicking Mike Williams. I will not be drafting Mike Williams. Brandon Cooks, I guess you could have pulled up. But does that correlate with anything? No. So no real reason to want to pull up Brandon Cooks there. But you probably would have wanted to go with a wide receiver, I'd imagine. You already have Breece Hall with the hero kind of running back build brought back with Zamir White and Tony Pollard back to back. I don't think you're clicking running back there. So it's probably, Brandon Cooks, maybe Adonai Mitchell. I don't know if you'd want to pull up Dontavian Wicks there. Maybe, you got him past ADP, so maybe Wicks, something like that. But then you take Justin Herbert at 128, right? Because you can call that a wash, really. Like you could call that a wash, saying you would have taken Dontavion Wicks at 113, which is a little bit of a pull up, but nothing crazy. 9 picks ahead of ADP, that's nothing crazy. And then you take Justin Herbert at the 128 pick, 4 picks ahead of ADP. That's nothing. So that kind of worked out, or didn't work out, but it didn't cost you, right? So I'm okay with that. The only gripe I'd have is just not enough correlation for me for week 17, but perfectly fine team. And quality advancing looking roster. Like you'll probably advance more often than I will. Yeah. More outcomes to advance than my team, in my opinion. But I have a fair amount more. Hopefully, actually, I don't even have a crazy amount of I don't have hardly any week 17 correlation actually, with no Dallas Cowboys for Jalen Hurts and no Kansas City Chiefs with Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. But there is some other correlating pieces. So we'll see. Either way, that was a fun one. That was a different draft. That's for damn sure. If you're in the chat, hit that like and subscribe button if you don't mind. Really appreciate it. It helps me out. I'll be back, like I said, tomorrow. I'll be guest spotting on another channel. That'll be fun. And then Thursday, the man, the myth, the legend, James Brimacombe Eagles will be with me again. On Thursday, same time, 7 p.m. where I live, Mountain Time, 9 p.m. in the East for probably the majority of people. So that'll be a fun episode. Come check us out. We'll at least do one draft, probably rip some puppies, maybe do a Best Ball Mania. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I'm not too worried about it. It's always fun when James comes on. So we'll see you then. Thanks for coming out. As always, like I said, hit that like button on your way out. Like I always say on Off the Schneid, if you're afraid to be wrong, you'll never be right. Hopefully tonight we fumbled and bumbled our way into being right. We'll see how it works, but appreciate you guys. We'll see you on Thursday.